10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, greetings, everybody. It's Lori with the Capital Film Arts Alliance, bringing you another episode of the CFAA Film Talk, which is our opportunity to connect all of you that are in the film community in the Northern California, Sacramento region. We have writers, actors, filmmakers, editors, crew of all kinds, and more that are part of the CFAA. The CFAA is an organization that's run by filmmakers. So we are filmmakers doing things for filmmakers. And we really know that there's so much value in staying connected to each other. Since we can't have meetings in person at this point, this is what we are able to do. If you have not caught this before, we have over a couple of dozen different interviews that we've done with some of the region's most incredibly talented and really, truly awesome people. It's kind of a wonderful thing to go back and see over time. But it's also a good thing if you want to know what your community is made up of. That's a really good place to start. If you go to the CFAA website, which is capitalfilmarts.org, and then go to CFAA Film Talks. You can see my hand, I'm showing you what to do. That will give you a link to every episode that we've done of this show since the pandemic began, which is basically when we got our ass kicked to the internet. So anyway, I love talking to filmmakers. I love people that have a story. And one of the things that we're sharing with you tonight is somebody that I have been friends with this gentleman for a very long time. I have admired him in everything that he takes on. And we have a history that goes way, way back because at some point, I don't even remember what year that was. We'll have to ask him. Rick Kuebler, who is our speaker for tonight, our guest. Rick Kuebler is now an accomplished screenwriter, an accomplished producer. He has an incredible history, a lifetime before his film work even started, as a harness racer out at, well, everywhere, Cal Expo, everywhere, all over. He was not just a harness racer, he was a record-breaking harness racer. He retired from that field at the age of 54 after winning over $2 million in purses, race purses. And he chose to leave it at a time when many people would just think they were getting started. So I want him to tell you that story. But what we're going to do is just learn a little bit about who this incredible filmmaker that's in our midst and what his life even before that was like, because it's just a really fascinating story. He can also update you on any production plans and opportunities and ideas or thoughts on what's happening in the local region. So with no further ado, I want to introduce Rick Kuebler. Yay!
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Hello, Lori.
Hi, love. Rick also, for those of you who don't know, for anybody who is in the writers group of the CFAA, Rick and his partner, Jack Dever, are the coordinators for the CFAA Screenwriters Lab.
Jack is the brains behind it, though. He's the one with the wit. He's the one with that puts things together, organizes. He's the one who sends out the scripts. Jack runs that show.
You know, we couldn't do it without both of you. But yeah, I know. Jack is a little chattier. Jack's a little chattier. But the really fascinating thing, I think, is for me when we do these talks is understanding what people's stories are. You know,
Mhm.
what kind of got them involved? Where did they come from? Um, my history with you, we've discussed this before, was you showed up to a CFAA meeting. This was a long time ago when we were meeting at the Art Institute and had probably not been going for that long. We started in 2004.
Okay.
And, you know, we started off introducing everybody. Everybody had a chance to say, I'm Lori, I'm a producer, I'm da 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 da, this is what I'm working on. And Rick, when it came to him, he said, well, I'm Rick, and I don't know what I am. And, you know, we kind of laughed about that and said, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm just kind of checking it out. I really am not sure where I'm a good fit.
Yeah.
And
I remember it distinctly because you went around the room and you asked everybody to describe what they do. And when it came to me, I thought, I don't do anything. And you were a little bit taken back. And you said to me, well, then why are you here? And I said, well, I guess to learn how to do something. So that was my introduction to the CFAA and to Lori. And she must have thought, what on earth is this no one doing here at this meeting? But
I have learned to love the people that come in with that kind of authentic, just curiosity. I love that. But what my point is, from that moment until today, coming into film, you now have, you know, an integral role in the CFAA. You have written and produced, you know, done so many things that have pushed you into not only understanding, I think, very clearly what you do, but the fact is your reputation is now that you do it so well, everybody wants to work with you. They know you're a really great guy. They know you're really nice. But what I want to do, because again, we've got, you know, Rick 1 and then Rick part 2. So tell me a little bit, because your first life before
okay.
film, and at what point even that got started, because, you know, most people are in, you know, class or college. Oh, sorry. Who's dinging?
They're digging you, I think.
Yeah, they're dinging me. God, shut up. Uh, oh, be quiet, Nathan. To be able to know where you're going to go and get there in that kind of a field, I wouldn't even know where to start. Wouldn't even know what to begin. So tell us a
Okay.
little bit about that, and then we're going to share some visuals with folks as you get a little into your story.
All right. Well, you know, going way back on the way back time machine, I was born a poor black child. Uh, that's a classic line from Steve Martin, The Jerk, which I
Yes, it
love. I
is.
think it's one of the greatest opening lines of a movie ever. So I just had to throw that in because I love that line of the movie. Actually, I was born in New York City. And one thing was real apparent in the first 5 years of my life in New York City was that I loved animals and I loved being a ham. So those two things were going to somehow come out later on in my life. But the bottom line, when I look back on everything I've done, has always been the common denominator was passion. I was always passionate about something. And I've always felt that if you could make what you're passionate about your job, then you would never work a day in your life.
Mhm.
So my wife kind of describes me as like a bulldog with a bone. Sometimes when I get something that I just won't let go of, and I have to devour it, I have to understand it, and that's the one thing that I think if filmmakers can have a passion for their job, that's, they're 2/3 of the way, underway. Um, we came out from New York City to California, and the first thing I can remember being passionate about was actually baseball. As a little kid, it was baseball, but I would play baseball year round. When it was football season or basketball season, I was still playing three flies up. I was still playing catch or whatever. And if the Dodgers did not, we moved out to Southern California, and if the Dodgers did not win the pennant, the year was a bust to me. I mean, my heroes then were Sandy Koufax and Maury Wills. Maury Wills, because he was a shortstop and he stole a lot of bases. And I was quick as a little kid. He was my, idol. So anyway, that passion led me to Little League. And in Little League, I was part of the WBBA, which is the Western Boys Baseball Association. It takes in the western half of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So unlike Little League, which is truly international, Western Boys Baseball takes in just the northern North America. And when it comes down to all-star time, there are over 4,000 all-star teams that compete. So when I was 12, I was the shortstop for our all-star team. And we ended up as the California state champions, representing California in the World Series. And then we went on and we won the World Series. So that was 12, and that was my passion. I mean, they took us to Dodger Stadium. They introduced us at home plate, in front of the crowd individually. We sat in the dugout with the Dodgers for a while. I got a baseball with Maury Wills' autograph on it, Walt Alston, Jim Lefebvre, all these Don Sutton, all these Dodger stars. And, they took us to City Hall, and the mayor gave us awards, and it was all the newspapers. So anyway, passion was behind it because I wanted to play baseball. Now, what happened was that as I got into being a teenager, everybody that I was quicker than got faster. So all the kids that I had an edge on as a little kid grew up and they got bigger, stronger, and faster than me. And I was no longer a star. So I had to turn to another passion. And so that passion actually turned to acting. And because like I said earlier, I was a ham to start with. But so I got into acting maybe when I was like 13, and I went to Cal State Northridge and did their summer workshop. I was Hansel in Hansel and Gretel at the college. In high school, I was Mr. Drama. I was Oliver in Oliver. I was in Brigadoon. I was Alfred P. Doolittle in My Fair Lady. I was.
And where were you in high school? What high school?
The high school was Alamany High in the Valley in Mission Hills. It was parochial high school. Okay. I directed our senior musical, Hello, Dolly. And so I thought that maybe acting was going to be my career. But then a funny thing happened. Right around 15 or so, my dad took me and my brother out to the horse races. And this was an entirely different world. And I just fell in love with the color, the glamour, the glitter, the atmosphere of the racetrack itself. It was a different world. And the pageantry of the horses, the athleticism, the competition, and yet it was a show. I thought it was the best of both worlds. Since I was a ham and I loved athletics, this was an athletic event, which was also a show at the same time. So anyway, I got very involved in becoming a degenerate gambler. So that was my next thing. That was my next passion. Was betting, was gambling on the horse races. And in order to do that, you have to be a handicapper. So you have to know how to read the form, study the form, devour the form. This was my next passion. So while I'm studying the form and trying to, make winning bets, I'm only 15, 16-year old, um, the harness races came to Hollywood Park. Now, the difference between harness racing and thoroughbred racing, most people know what a thoroughbred race is. It has a jockey, sits on top of the horse. In harness racing, you have drivers who sit behind the horse in a two-wheeled sulky or cart, and the horses have to maintain a trot or a pace, whichever the race may be. So it's a controlled gait. And when I watched the harness races at Hollywood Park, it was so much more interesting to me because there is so much more strategy involved in winning a harness race. Whereas the driver in a harness race is more important to the outcome of a race than a jockey is to the outcome of a thoroughbred race. It means something to get boxed in, to be parked out, to lose your cover. I mean, you draft behind other horses like bicycle racing does, or even auto sports. So there's all these different factors. And then back in that time, the racing form did not give you all the information it does today. So if you were an astute handicapper, you could figure out the last quarter of every individual horse in the race. And if you knew that, then you knew which horses finished the strongest in their last races. And if you know which horse is finishing the strongest, it's a definite edge. So my handicapping gave me an edge, and I became, an ardent handicapper of harness racing. And I watched all the races. I devoured the form. I'm like 16 years old, and I'm out at the track every night at Hollywood Park that they're racing and going to school the next day. So, but I made enough money. I made enough money at night to buy a car. So I was kind of hooked on racing. I kind of, I was an addict for racing and for gambling at the time. So I remember distinctly, though, one moment watching. I like to go down to the paddock where the horses and the drivers all gathered before the race, and then they go around in a circle and they would go out onto the track. And I remember the moment I said to myself, watching that, I said, that looks like the most fun thing in the world that anybody could do. It's just, I would love to be able to do that. And I said, why can't I do that? Just what is holding me back from doing that? So I made it a point the next Sunday to go out to a little training track we had about a mile away from where I lived to maybe just, watch, see if any horses came out on the track. And so I'm there at 6 a.m. or whatever on a Sunday at a little training track. Nobody's coming out on the track. So I'm sitting there for a couple hours, nothing's happening. And I decided to walk through the stable area and see if I could find anybody. And I found an old guy who had a jog cart, which is used for jogging harness horses. And he was cleaning out his stall. And I started talking to him. And the first question I asked him is, how do you become a driver? So he said, well, first you got to become a good groom. You have to know how to rub horses. You just don't become a driver. So he let me start cleaning his stalls for him. So then I met a few other horsemen and I volunteered to clean out stalls. Just let me clean your stalls. Let me bathe your horses. Let me rub
were you even a rider at all?
Well, I had done creative writing in high school. That's all I had done. Okay. But like I said, I had the creative bug, done creative writing in high school, done some acting in high school, but then my interest went from creative to horses.
Okay.
Now horses became my passion. And I just started volunteering, to do anything I could. And they were more than willing to let me clean their stalls. Yeah. So so eventually they let me take the horse out onto the track and start jogging. And that's when you know that you're hooked on harness racing because it's in your blood now. And I knew that this is something I really wanted to do. Uh, but I was supposed to go to college. Okay. So, but by the time I graduated from high school in 71, I knew enough where I came up to Sacramento and they had their very first harness horse meet in 1971. And I got a job rubbing horses, both me and my brother. We got a job rubbing horses. We lived in a tack room on the track. We rubbed horses the whole summer. And I started to network, meeting all the people on the backstretch, and I loved it. Then I came back and went to college, but I wanted to be at the track. So college, it just wasn't making it for me. And what I was doing in college was I was taking creative writing, drama, and the arts that I would pretty easily pull an A in. And then I would take the sciences. I would take biology or physics or whatever, in which I never went to class. I never bought a book. I never took a note. I just had somebody tell me when there was going to be a test. And I always figured I could pull a D. So I'd get A's over here and D's over here, and my GPA would be, okay. So I said, well, what good is this doing me? I said, it wasn't making it. Um, so I let my parents know I wanted to go back and try, training at the track. Um, so at the time, my brother, he had a business degree and he had a job teaching, but he loved the track too. And he was willing to create a prospectus in which we could raise some funding to start a stable. And it was basically my parents who put up most of the money, but we ended up starting a racing stable. We called it the My Hero Racing Stable, simply because it was named after my parents' submarine sandwich shop in Northridge, just a little mom and pop shop called My Hero Submarine Sandwiches. So we ended up with the My Hero Racing Stable. We started off with 6 horses, and that was like 1972, I'll say. And by the time we got to 1978, I had over 50 horses. So we had just kept putting money back into the stable, buying more horses, buying more horses. Up until that point, um, at the age of 22, I think in 76, I drove in the richest race in harness racing history back in New York, the Monticello OTB Classic. And I'm only 22 years old, and I'm in there with these Hall of Fame drivers, among them Joe Bryan, who was my idol. Joe Bryan was my idol. And I'm this 22-year-old kid in with all these Hall of Famers. And it was a sport in which most drivers are middle-aged to older age. No young people actually at that time were driving. Not like today. Today, like every other sport, it's the young and athletic that are all the drivers. But I I was in that richest race, And by the time 1978 rolled around, I was the leading trainer and the leading driver in the state of California. So that's how kind of meteoric it was. And from there, I had decades of success, you might say. And I really loved what I did at the track. We have, during that course, I drove a lot of, world champions and had a lot of driving titles. And we have, I think, lined up one race for people who have not ever seen a harness race or do not know what it is. This will give you an example. This is a pace. I think we're going to line up a story. There's a good story behind this. Don't show it yet. This is going to be a horse I drove called Hi Ho Silver Heels. And the story behind this was there was an old guy called Milan Smith who was he was a Native American Indian, and he had spent basically most all of his life on the backside and never had 2 nickels or a even a horse that was worth 2 dead flies. But he had a friend, and they scraped up about $1,000, and there was a sale at Los Alamitos in which one of the horses was a yearling, just a 1-year-old, and they bought him at auction, this colt, and he renamed the horse Hi Ho Silver Heels. And he did this because he had a friend who was in the movie industry called Jay Silverheels.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody can remember, Jay Silverheels was, his claim to fame was he was Tonto in
Yeah.
the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
So Milan Smith and Jay, because Milan would do some stunt work, be an Indian in the movies. So Milan would do some stunt work, and he met Jay, and they became friends. And eventually, after the Lone Ranger series, Jay Silverheels became a harness driver, in fact, and they used to go do promotional gigs at the fairs. So anyway, he names the horse Hi Ho Silverheels, and every time I saw Milan on the backstretch, he'd have to come up, because Milan was one of the very few guys I met at that training track when I was cleaning out stalls. There were only a few horsemen that would be there, and Milan was one of the guys. So I knew him right from the very start. And every time I would see him on the backstretch, he would come up to me and he says, Rick, I got a good one in the barn. Like, okay, Milan. Okay, very good. And everybody says, Rick, he's come along. He's going to be a good one. I said, okay, when he's ready, let me know, because everybody thinks they have a good horse in the barn until they prove otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an old saying that an owner with a 2-year-old in training never commits suicide. Okay. They got to know what the horse is going to be. So anyway, Milan would tell me how good this horse is going to be. I said, okay, Milan. And then when it came time for the horse to finally make his first start, Milan named me as the driver. But I had another horse in the race that was a California Sire Stakes horse that I needed to drive instead of Milan's horse. So Milan put up another driver, and Terry Kerr, and they ended up winning the race. So the following week, Milan put Terry Kerr back up to drive, but Terry had his own horse in the race, so he had to drive his own horse. So Milan turned around, put me back up. So I drove Hi Ho his second start, and he won again in pretty much eye-popping fashion. And I knew at that point, I said, Milan, you have better than just a good horse. This is a superior, excellent horse. Well, turns out that Milan ended up with Hi Ho Silver Heels who became a world champion. And there was a period of time where you could match up Hi-Ho Silver Heels against the best field of horses in the world, and he would be the odds-on favorite to win the race. So this is what everybody dreams of in owning a horse. And it happened to this American Indian who never had anything and wouldn't sell them, got offered tons of money, would not sell the horse. That was his horse. He loved the horse. And we're going to see a race in which I drove him in. I think this is a.
Where are you in this? You're going to walk us through.
Oh,
this.
you'll see me. You'll see me.
Okay, you ready?
This is the Press Genuine Pace at Los Alamitos. It's a 6-figure purse. I don't remember what it was, but this is Hi-Ho, and this is a race for people to watch.
Horses and drivers are now in the hands of the starter, Bill Lanningham.
Where are you?
Now post time. Field is now in motion.
I'm the 4-hole.
And there they go.
My colors.
They're off and pacing in the Press Genuine. From between horses, Cat and a Hat takes the lead. Falcon Dakota in the center, full throttle along the rail.
Right here, I'm just
riding his time right now with the West Coast champ Hi-Ho Silver Heels. Next in line comes one of the long shot distinguished Baron back in his comeback return is Fiddler. They're on their way to the quarter mile pole, and Rick Keeler has had enough of the 4-hole. Hi-Ho Silver Heels away. Drives up on the outside. They open up here in a lively 27-2. They come past the stand and brushing to the front with effortless ease. Hi-Ho Silver Heels. He draws off a length and a half. Around the clubhouse turn. Hi-Ho Silver Heels in command by a length and a half. Falcon Dakota on his heels in second. The Catman skims the rail third. Full throttle now, fourth, gap of 2. Distinguished Baron and Fiddler, they're at the half. 55-1. Down the back stretch, they roll to the 3/4 pole. Still in command, easy right now. Hi-Ho Silver Heels. Rick Keeler raises the line. He draws off by 3. Hi-Ho Silver Heels well in hand now. Doing his best in second, Falcon Dakota. First to flush. Coming with a rush. Here's Distinguished Baron being sent up on the outside. Cat and a Hat got caught in far outside. Fiddler in full throttle. 3/4 in 123-1. Pacing a hole in the wind on the far turn. Hi-Ho Silver Heels by 2. Nick at Night is all over Distinguished Baron. The rest are well back off the turn in the stretch. They're on their way home. Hi-Ho Silver Heels leads the way. Strike up the orchestra. They're ready to play the William Tell Overture. Hi-Ho Silver Heels. Distinguished Baron second. Hi-Ho in 151-1. Not a world record, but a track record.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the track record there at Los Alamitos.
Have an enlarged prostate. Do this 15-second Japanese ritual before bed to shrink it almost immediately.
We still got the YouTube showing on there. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's no problem. So
Those are advertisers. Something about prostates.
So anyway, that was just an example for people who had never seen a harness race. Harness racing was my passion. It was my physical activity. It was my social activity. It was my adrenaline rush every night. So it was everything to me. But I had this dream, you might say, that most drivers, it's in your blood, and you just keep driving till you can't drive anymore. But I didn't want to go out that way, and I always thought it would be nice if ever I was able or good enough to win enough races to match Joe O'Brien, who I told you was considered by many the greatest driver ever. If I ever reached that number, that I would hang it up right on that number. And that came up, I was just in 2007. So I was 53, I think, at the time still. And it was now or never. So I decided I was just going to hang it up, and I would still be young enough maybe to pursue some other passion. And during the course of my racing, in 1988, I always had that creative bug. So, like everybody else, I always felt like I could write. I felt like I could write a script. I could write a movie. Everybody can write a movie. So, I went to Fullerton College and I took a course from Dave Trottier, who wrote the Screenwriter's Bible. And I read all the books and I set out to write my first screenplay, 1988. And that screenplay was Mama Boy. So that was my first screenplay that I had written. I got it in the hands of a entertainment lawyer who, had a lot of contacts in the business. He showed it to a producer in LA. They decided to option it from me, and then they shopped it around, and they sold it to an Australian studio called Quintex at the time. They're a very big Australian studio. It was in pre-production, and I'll give you an idea. At that time, I had written the script, but it was out of my hands. It was, I was a total novice. So the studio had hired Stan Daniels, was his name, to do a rewrite on it. Now, Stan Daniels was the creator and head writer of the series Taxi back then. You remember Taxi series. So he's very well known. He was very big in Hollywood. They gave him $150,000 at the time to do a rewrite on it. So they were fairly serious about it. Now, what happened is they had the biggest corporate bankruptcy like in the history of Australia at the time. So all their projects stopped. Everything stopped. My producers ended up going to bankruptcy court to get the rights back to it. In the meantime, everybody knows what's in the pipeline or whatever. I think it's Universal Studios put their writers onto the same concept, but for an adult audience. And they ended up making the movie Junior with Schwarzenegger and DeVito. So when we got the rights back, the producer said, we can't really pitch this now. It's way too early. So they put it in the closet. They went on to other projects. I went back to racing. And when I did retire, then I asked them for the rights back to it. And that's another story, though. I want to get ahead of myself. I want to just back up a step because I'm thinking before all that happened, during my racing career, I met my wife. And that was interesting because she was a student at Sac State, but she had taken the summer to work at the track for a summer job. So that's where I met her. And once we got married, she got involved in the film industry also in LA as an animal trainer for the movie. So I always had this connection to the film industry, you might say. But it came full circle, when we finally put an end to the racing and then decided to, go into a different passion. Anyway, what we can do is, it was kind of a cool night. The night that I stopped racing, and we have a film of that. We have the film of my last race, if we want to show that. And then I can tell you basically how I transitioned into what really got me transitioned into the film industry.
So did Joe know that you had this plan of quitting before you?
Joe was dead by then.
He was dead by then.
Yeah, he had died. Yeah.
So the fact that you wanted to honor his memory by not beating his record is probably the most unheard of thing in competitive sports anybody could ever say.
It would have been bad to one up Joe O'Brien. You just don't do that. I mean, Joe O'Brien's a legend in the sport, and you don't one up him. So to pull up alongside of him was great, and it was funny because there was in the forum there was a story, and I don't know if we'll see because they told the story on this video, but I don't know if we'll see it. But the first time I got to drive against Joe O'Brien was at Hollywood Park, and I didn't know what to say or what to do, so I was scoring down the backside, and I pulled up alongside of him, and I just looked and I said, Joe, he didn't come in very often to Hollywood Park. He was out in Shafter, so you don't see him that often, but he was there that night, and I was in a race with him. So I pulled up alongside of him, and I said, hey, I haven't seen you around here before. I said, are you any good? And he just looked over at me. He says, I'm all right. I said, okay, well, just make sure you stay out of my way. So that was kind of a joke we had going back and forth. So the idea being that if I could win as many races as Joe O'Brien, that if anybody ever asked me, if they found out if I was a harness driver and they asked me, were you any good? I could always say I was all right. So anyway, that was a little story with me and Joe the first time we drove against each other.
It almost makes me want to cry. You're just so sweet. I can't even stand it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, we do have a video of that last race too, if we want to show that.
Yep. Here we go.
Here they come.
Where are you, on the outside?
And they're off. That's Frank the Bank and California Dream both firing out for the lead. Down along the inside, it's the Pandelusion, and they're rolling into that turn. Frank the Bank has the early lead, but up on the outside, here comes California Dream, and California Dream takes the lead. Will Frank the Bank push him on the inside? The answer is no, and California Dream is clear to the top. Frank the Bank racing in second. The Pandelusion is third as the pace now slows up. Exit Hanover is fourth, and the early trailer is D Jokerman. And now with a quarter move, here comes Exit Hanover. No easy time of it for California Dream as they race by the opening quarter that was timed in 28 seconds flat. And up on the outside, Exit Hanover takes the lead. Along the inside, California Dream is second. Will Kuebler play hardball? He might have to. Along the inside, Frank the Bank is third. Up on the outside, D Jokerman is fourth. And the Pandelusion's on the inside and fifth. What a completely different look than most of us thought to this race. It's California Dream on the inside, applying pressure as Exit Hanover. 56-1 for the half, 28-1 for the second quarter. Into the final turn they go. It's California Dream, 3 parts of a length. Exit Hanover's on the outside in second. Frank the Bank gets the perfect trip in third. D Jokerman well placed second over in fourth. Then on the inside, it's the Pandelusion. And here comes D Jokerman 3 wide, and Rick Kuebler lets out a notch on California Dream as they race by the 3 quarters in 124 flat, a 27-4 third quarter, and they're in the stretch. And California Dream has opened up by 2.5 lengths. Up on the outside, D Jokerman is second. Along the inside, Frank the Bank is third. 1/8 of a mile to go, and California Dream and Rick Kuebler lead it by 3. The battle's for second. 1/16 of a mile to go, and Rick Kuebler is going to reach his dream, and it's with California Dream as they win, and Rick Kuebler ties the great Joe O'Brien with 4,284 wins and goes out a winner in his great career, winning with California Dream in 152-1. Congratulations, Rick Kuebler, on a great career.
Thank you, Scott. if we can, I don't know if you can fast forward at all to the winner circle. I don't have any control of it here.
I don't have any control over it.
Okay, well then just get rid of it. But winner circle was kind of cool because there was no room on the track. I mean, all the horsemen were out there, all the pictures. I went back to the paddock. They threw water on me, which they usually do after your first win, not your last. But
and what number race was this? How many?
That was my 4,284th win.
That was
4,284.
4,284 wins.
Yeah.
Wow. Has anybody passed that yet?
Oh yeah. Are you kidding me?
Oh, well, good. They have.
Way. I would say you got to remember harness racing is not big out here anymore. It's still very big back east, and there are guys who just specialize driving day and night. I mean, they go to a track in the day, they go to tracks at night. There's a lot of guys with a lot more wins now than back at that point. The only thing I could probably attest to is I probably have won more races in this state than any other driver. Let's put it that way, but not throughout the country.
Right.
After a year after I hung it up there, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame in California, the California Hall of Fame. So that was cool to be recognized by that.
Yeah.
But it was tough, cold turkey to give all that up. Like I said, it was my whole life.
So
And,
had you actually thought about that? I mean, were you prepared for just dropping it completely?
No, but I said it's either now or never. And I wasn't really prepared in the sense that, the next day when I didn't go in to drive, I was physically sick. Nothing wrong with me, but I was throwing up. I was so upset that I had stopped. And I would have nightmares that I would have nightmares of going back and racing again. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have this final goodbye and ever go back again because I just couldn't stand not doing it, So it was pretty tough in that sense. But the first week, Terry took me out dancing twice. so get my mind off it. Let's go dancing. Okay.
He's like, come on, get a hobby.
Yeah. So anyway, the next question was, now what? Now what do we do? I'm only 53 and still young enough to do something else. And that's where the next passion comes in. So started to write again because that creative, bug came out. And I kept rewriting Mama Boy and updating it because it always made me chuckle. I always liked the characters. I liked it. It was funny. To me, it was entertaining. So anyway, I thought, producers are never going to make this movie. I wonder if they'd give me the rights back to it. So I contacted them and they were gracious and they did. They gave me the rights to it. And I thought, what am I going to do with this script now? And I thought, well, maybe I'll see if I can sell it again. So I contacted some agents and found one agent who had read it and said, it's ready to pitch. We want to represent you. So they sent me a contract. I'm sitting there with a contract thinking, is this what I want? Do I want another career as a writer? Because they're going to want you to do assignments. And I thought, no, what I really want is to see this get made. So in talking to my brother-in-law, David Flanagan, and letting him know, where I was at, he said, well, it sounds like you want to be a producer. And he said, if you want to produce, David had an advertising agency downtown.
Crocker Flanagan.
And they did commercials. And he said, if you want to produce or learn how to produce, come produce commercials for me. So he put me on with one of his producers and we started doing commercials. And that is where I started to meet people in the industry. And it was just about the same time I went to CFAA and that's very related. And it was through CFAA and through working in commercial work that you start to get to know the players in the industry up here.
Yeah.
And everything I did was with the mindset of someday I'm going to make a feature film, because I got the script, and every time I would work with somebody, I, uh, I like Brian Ham, who, we worked with him on commercials, and I tell Brian, so Brian, I'm going to do a feature someday. And he just looked at me and said, yeah. He said, yeah. But let me know when you're going to do it. Kind of like I said to Mylon Smith, I got this great horse. Yeah, Mylon. Okay. Let me know, So anyway, it was a matter of everything I did was with the goal, the idea of I'm going to do this feature film someday. And at one point, I remember really well, CFAA is just great for networking. And one point we had a speed network night, which was like speed dating, right?
Yeah.
It was great. What a great night. I mean, you talk about, we had a zillion people in there.
It was
meeting each other for a minute,
It was insanity. I'm ringing. I'm
noisy.
the bell every 60 seconds so that people would get up and move.
I mean, and noisy. You could even hear hardly the person across from you.
Yeah.
But what a great opportunity to meet people and have them hand you resumes and having the information and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, one of the people that I remember meeting was Aaron Leong. Okay. And the interesting thing about Aaron is that I had already seen some of his work at the film festival. Nate Schimmel and Tony put on this
Sacramento
Film International Film Festival.
20 years.
What?
For 20 years they put on.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So that was another CFAA event in the sense that at one point CFAA had a table read for shorts that they did, and I submitted a short for the table read. And at that meeting, I met Paul Kramer, who was at that meeting, and my story went over pretty well. And Paul and I started talking about producing it, and we ended up doing a short called The Final Round. It was a boxing short, and it was in Nate's film festival, and also in that festival was Aaron's short film, and I can't remember the name of it offhand, but I remember watching it, and Chris King had one in there too, and I thought, whoa, these guys have really quality stuff. So I was very impressed with Aaron's work, and I had met Aaron through the speed networking. Anyway, going on with the story, 7 years doing commercial work, doing short films, trying to get funding. Then it was my brother again, who had put together the My Hero Racing stable, who ended up getting the funding, and we created the My Hero Productions. Okay. So now we have the funding to do the film. And boy, it's not without problems. Anytime you're going to do a film, it's a war. It's a war. And I'm just going to give you one example. Was that who was I going to get to direct this? It's going to be the question. Well, my first choice was going to be David Flanagan, who had the advertising agency, who I did the producing for.
Who's also produced a feature film on his own.
Sure. David did a film about 15 years earlier called My Sweet Suicide. Yeah. And Terry worked on that. It was a family thing. It was a credit card film, you know, and it got distribution too. So it won an award back at the Brooklyn Film Festival and then got some distribution. So David loves writing, number one, and he's an excellent director, number two. So I was going to have David do my directing. And David is such a good writer that he read the script and he wanted to rewrite it. And when he started rewriting it, it was a total rewrite. I mean, there was nothing the same. And I just said, no.
And he's your brother-in-law, so you got to kind of,
I said, I'm going to let you off the hook on this one, David. So I said, he just wanted to write a different story, and I wanted this done. So he didn't have the vision for this that I had. So then my next choice was Paul Kramer, because Paul had done the final round. And then when it got, green lit and we had the money, then Paul couldn't get the time off of work. And he had to choose between his job and doing this movie. No, he had to choose the job. So that was my second director. Then I went over to the Haskins Kijo films. And because they had done, feature films with SAG actors, and I thought, I'll just have Kijo produce this, and I'll have Kevin direct it, because he has been directing films. So I met with them, and it turned out that they were working on Perry King's film, The Divide, which was going right up until the time that Mama Boy was going to start.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it. We just, I couldn't have somebody who had all their attention on another film when there's so much that needs to be done to get your own feature film done. So that was my third director that I did not have. So now I said, now what? So what do you do when you have a problem? You turn to CFAA, and I call Lori Peterson, and Lori says, Aaron Leong. And then I had Laura Chick, who was helping me with it. And she said, Aaron Leong. And everybody I talked to said, Aaron Leong. And I had seen Aaron's work, and I had met him, and I liked everything about him. And when I contacted Aaron, he was out of the country on vacation, but he read the script on vacation. And he immediately wanted to do it. And when he came back, 4 or 5 days later, we met. I was shocked at how much he had digested that script. He knew that script, that story, almost as well as I did.
And he had not directed a feature.
No.
Right. So this was a whole new ballgame for him.
It was all new for him too. Yeah. But he had the same vision I had for it. And I just felt this connection with Aaron. And I got to tell you, it's just fate that there couldn't have been anybody better than Aaron to have directed this, because Aaron was involved in every aspect of it. I mean, not only the directing, but we'd sit down and he'd give me things that he'd like to see changed writing wise in the script. And I'd go do another rewrite or something like that. Post-production, he was the post supervisor. I mean, Aaron made it what it was. I mean, it was just a total blessing to have him on board.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You created an incredible team with that film. And I think the coolest thing about it was that it was, I don't know what the percentage was. I would say 95% local talent, local crew, local actors. Yeah, actually the acting and the casting, talk a little bit about that, because you had very specific objectives in who you wanted to cast and why.
Yeah, well, first of all, I hired 100 people. There were 100 people that I actually had paychecks for, and everybody, all the crew was local except for the DP. And even then, we started with a local DP, and he had to back out. So we only had one outside crew member. Everybody else was local, and most of the talent was probably local too. However, for the starring roles, it was a high school movie. So I had a very specific look in my head, as most people, as writers will do, of what Kelly Hankins, the Mama Boy, looked like. So what we did is we had a breakdown services in LA. I had a casting director in LA, and he put it up on breakdown services. But I had researched all the Disney shows and all the Nickelodeon shows, and I I had contacted some of those actors, and they weren't eligible or they weren't able or whatever. But we throw it down on breakdown services to see who would throw their hat in the ring. And when it came down to the lead, you have 200 people applying for it and their resumes and pictures. Instantly, when I looked at Sean O'Donnell's picture, I said, that is it. That is the look. That is it. Can this guy act? I looked at his resume and it was blank. Sean hadn't done anything. I mean, he had come out from New York where he had done one local stage play, and but his thing was a model. He was a model basically, but he done no acting. So we had him audition with like 5 other guys I picked out that were, also possibles. But I was rooting for Sean. I was rooting for Sean. And when he auditioned, he did a good job, but you could see that he was a little greener than the others, maybe not as polished. But when I took those half a dozen auditions and showed them to maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 women who looked at my auditions, every one of them chose Sean O'Donnell. So that right off the bat said, I know what he's got. He's got that image. He's got that allure. He's got that look.
Yeah.
So we went with Sean and hoping that, he could fit the part well because he had the look, and he just knocked it out of the park. I mean, what an intelligent, good-natured guy to get along with. I mean, just all the kids on that show just impressed the hell out of me with how intelligent they were, how smart, and they're all coming off of Disney shows, that they were in and whatnot. And so they all had some background and talent. And then we went to the adults. Adults.
Yes. Chris Wallace already brought up Gary Busey in the chat, so I was giggling at that.
Oh, who brought that up?
Chris Wallace.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Gary.
Questions. If you have any,
we wanted to get some kind of a name that might open some doors for distribution. And Gary Busey, he was nominated for Best Actor for the for the
Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly story, right? So when we had the opportunity, we were low man on the totem pole. I mean, we're a first-time production company, first-time director. Anybody who'd be interested to work with us, we're gonna be interested in them. So when we had the opportunity to get Gary Busey, we jumped at it, and he was a story in himself with all the backstories with him. But then we were very, very, very fortunate in that our casting director was best friends and next door neighbors to Stephen Tobolowsky. And Stephen Tobolowsky was a very respected character actor, had been in over 200 films. And we still hadn't cast the role of Reverend Well. That was the last thing that we needed to cast. And he just said, let me talk to Stephen. And we ended up getting him for a song. I mean, he did it as a favor almost to the casting director, his friend. So we got him for like a fraction of what Gary Busey cost, But Tobolowsky
got an added benefit because the night that he flew in was when we were having a CFAA meeting. He agreed to come in and be our speaker. And I think I had no concept of what he would bring to that table. I knew that he had a history and he was working in Hollywood, and that's always an interesting story to share. To this day, I think that he is head and shoulders above the best guest that we had, the best speaker that we ever had in person. And he took that meeting and not only shared incredible insights, but he has experienced coaching, and he was hands-on coaching people in that meeting in a way that, oh my God, I was just slack-jawed at how much he brought. And it was just because he flew in that night and he had time, and he's such an incredible talent, and we still talk about that.
Yeah, he's a great person, great personality to be around. I mean, he's so giving, and we hit it off. Unlike me and Gary Busey, we didn't hit it off.
No.
Me and Tobolowsky hit it off. We went out to dinner, a few of us.
Hit it off with Gary Busey.
Yeah. With Tobolowsky, he's a horseman, and I forget what breed he has that he rides, but he was trying to explain to me the gait of his horse. It's called a pace, and when both legs move simultaneously, right front and right rear. And he's trying to explain this to me, and I'm thinking, Stephen, I've probably sat behind 20,000 pacers. I know what a pacer is, but when he found out that I was also a horseman, we had that link in common. So he was great on set, total professional. You could just do one take if you wanted to, just one take. We have the star trailer for him. He didn't want to be in the star trailer. He wanted to be with everybody else, taking pictures, talking with everybody. Busey, different story. I mean,
Yeah.
he needed kid gloves to work with. So
did Stephen and Busey have any scenes together? Did they have any interaction? No,
they didn't. No, they were actually they were both up here for only 2 days of work. So they're totally different times, but that's good. But there's
Stan Bautista watching, and he wanted to remind me. He said the Buseys sent a gift basket after we wrapped. Surprisingly kind.
Who said that?
Stan Bautista.
Oh, okay. My man Stan. That's where I first met Stan. I first met Stan for Mama Boy. Actually, Laura Chick brought him on, and he was my transpo captain. And if you've ever talked to Stan, or if anybody in the viewing audience doesn't know Stan, they need to know Stan, because Stan puts out fires. I mean, Stan can talk his way or your way out of any problem, any problems. I mean, he is the guy you want to in a crisis, So whenever there's a problem on set, I don't even say anything. I say, Stan, go talk to them. Yeah. So I love Stan. Love Stan.
Yes. He said it was an honor to work on Mama Boy. Here, I can post that.
It
was an honor to work on Mama Boy.
And not only that, but when you get to know and like people, you want to work with them on other projects. That's the whole thing, is that you start to know people you do and do not want to work with again.
Yeah.
And when I'm working on other productions, I want Stan on there, because that's the most fun I have, is to be with Stan, going out on locations and scouting them and looking for logistics or staging or whatever. The most fun I have is with Stan. So
yes, I have a lot of fun with Stan too. Stan is the man. There's a lot of talent in Sacramento, and it's actually incredible that I know that The Divide was being shot at the same time. I think there was another film that was being shot. I was worried that we had enough pool of crew to suffice, everybody's needs. And you brought on some people that, we hadn't seen, we hadn't proven, Stan being one of them. And it turned out to be an incredible team. they have worked, almost all of them collectively have worked together since then. Many of them are now the absolute go-to people in their particular craft or industry. Dean Tokuna, I mean, Sally.
I worked with Dean on a lot of commercials before calling him in for Mama Boy, and that's one thing. I learned this as a trainer in the harness racing, and you carry it into film production or basically anything in your life. If you want to be successful, surround yourself with great people.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, if you have if you have a great grooms rubbing your horse, you have a great vet, you have a great shoer to solve problems, you're going to be a good trainer. It's the same thing in the film industry. If you've got good, talented people who are good to work with, boy, you're going to make it. So surround yourself with great people, and to that extent, I had my people like Laura Chick. I mean, she was one of the first people I contacted, and I love Laura Chick because she has passion. She had the passion I did. She puts her whole heart into trying her hardest for you. I mean, there may be ups and downs and whatever, but boy, she always has your back and always has your best interest. So she was great. And one of the very first people that I contacted was, again, CFAA. I saw him speak at one of the meetings, was Jonathan Morkin. And Jonathan Morkin was my producer of marketing and distribution. And Jonathan, I wanted to get involved with Jonathan. So what I did was, he had talked about re-releasing some movies on occasion. So I contacted him about re-releasing My Sweet Suicide. And we did. We re-released it. We got a different cover and blah, blah, blah. We did this. So we didn't make any money, but I learned a lot about distribution through him. And the great thing about Jonathan was that even though I made him no money, he was there every time I had a question. Every time I needed an answer, he was immediately available for me.
Great guy. He's a great.
So I said, this is the kind of guy I want. He's not making any money from me, but he's helping me all he can.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan Morkin was one of my producers. Laura Chick, my wife. I mean, my wife, who had to put up with me for who knows, for years and years and years, to the point where she finally asked me one day, she said, when are you going to give up on this? This is, before I made it. And I just said, never. I'm never going to give up on this. I may not ever make it, but I'll never give up on it.
Yeah.
So, but she was there through a lot of the troubles, and she did all of the animal work in it. And so she was my partner and my producer. And then my fourth was Brandy Bianchini, who I did not know out of the blue, and I needed somebody to run the office. And I met her. She was recommended to me. I met her, and she blew my socks off when I talked to her, as far as things she had done and everything. So she was on board too, and we had a great team.
Heidi Boucher.
Boucher, she was not one of my producers, but here's another story. There's always a story. I met with Heidi Boucher because this is a nightmare of mine, is what am I going to do with props and costumes? I can't get all this. I have to have a really good production designer. So I know Heidi had a great reputation as a terrific production designer, and I met with her and I explained things, and I had the funding and blah blah blah, and she was well, I got another job that I usually do every year, and I can't really be there. So finally she said she could not commit, and I'm thinking, oh, now what do I do? Who steps in? Aaron Leong. When Aaron came on board, he asked Heidi if she would join the team. Now with Aaron on board, Heidi was okay. I will. And Well, you talk about taking a load off your shoulders. I mean, and that was just giving me nightmares, like I said, and I could hand it over to Heidi. So that was
Yeah, yeah.
great.
Well, and let's back up a little bit because we know the movie so well, but for anybody who's watching that is not familiar with Mama Boy, give a little elevator pitch so you can understand what kind of product they were trying to create and
Sure.
the
Well, it was
inherent.
I like to categorize it as a rom-com for teenage girls. That's how I think the best audience is. And the log line for me was a teen's world turns upside down while trying to hide the fact that he is pregnant. So the idea to me was I wanted to create something that was just an outrageous concept so I could get kids' attention. I wanted a wide secular audience to want to know more about this movie. And then after I've got their attention, then I want to deliver a good moral message for them. It's not crass. It's a clean movie. And it's got a great message for kids. Now, with that outrageous concept, we were able to get over 5 million views of our trailer right off the bat. So we knocked it out of the park there as far as, kids were interested. And we went to, and then through Jonathan Morgan, we did, we went to various events to promote it. And we got a lot of kids, a lot of eyeballs on it anyway.
Yeah. Comedy is the hardest thing any filmmaker can take on. So comedy and dealing with that, you were non-offensive in every possible way. And it could have gone in an opposite direction, but it was a very sweet story and it was very clever and it was very funny. The moments, as difficult as Busey was on set, his scenes they turned out great. Stephen Tobolowsky couldn't ask for somebody better. So,
basically then what happens, once you, in this industry, I think once you have got something rolling, it compounds into something else. So,
do we want to show the Mama Boy trailer?
Pardon?
Want to show the Mama Boy trailer?
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Do you have it lined up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Hold on.
Let's see it.
Hold on. Okay. Oh, I need to do the same thing where I expand the screen. Okay, here we go.
Ditto, can you keep a secret? Lisa and I we're in love.
You cannot touch her. She is the preacher's daughter.
I expect you sitting on the front row of every service.
It will be, Daddy.
How much longer do we have to keep this a secret?
8 months, 1 week, and 3 days. My birthday. I've got a problem. A growing problem.
I don't get it.
Do you prefer cloth or disposable diapers?
I promise I will come up with something. Lisa and I are gonna have a baby.
A baby what? What do you mean a baby what? A baby baby.
This is gonna put a definite strain on your baby secret.
I gotta think of something fast.
Hey, Uncle Fizz. I need somebody to volunteer to do my experiment on.
I'll volunteer. I can never repay you.
Hey, Uncle Fizz, who's this? That is Adam, the most extraordinary experiment. He is gonna have a baby.
No, Uncle Theus, you said you'd never be able to repay me for that experiment.
That's right.
I know how you can repay me. Wait till you hear this plan.
What?
It's perfect, alright? I'll have no problem hiding 10 pounds, and then when school lets out for the summer, I'll have it.
You have performed this procedure before, right?
Yeah, of course.
Monkey?
Here means my dear. Who means all my problems are solved.
I'm a mother! You might be in for a rough ride.
ever seen a more pitiful sight?
That's not a royal hound. That's a hippo.
This honeymoon is over.
I can tell there is something quite extraordinary about Kelly Hankins.
What happened? In 10 pounds, you become a joke of the entire school.
My professional opinion is you're pregnant.
Do you have any idea how difficult it is to carry a baby?
Oh my god, I can handle it, alright? How hard could it be?
You really have no clue, do you?
All right. 5 million and one.
And where is that available? Can anybody stream it?
Well, right now it's on just a lot of streaming sites. Originally, we had it released on DirecTV and Dish, and I think it's probably still available on iTunes and Hulu. And now you can see it. You know, if you got Prime, I know you can see it. And the other day, I was on Tubi and I saw it on Tubi's TV. So basically, just check whatever streaming sites that you have available, and watch it if you haven't watched it. So
yes, please do. You will, if you are local, you will recognize so many people in the production, not just in the crew, but on screen. It's like a walk down memory lane, honestly.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Eric Wheeler, who plays Principal Miller, his first acting role in a feature was on My Sweet Suicide, which was David Finnegan's film that we helped out on, you know, the credit card film, and he was terrific in My Sweet Suicide. So I always knew that he was a great actor. I always loved him, and man, when it came time to cast it, I was just dying to get him in to Mama Boy because he had done a lot of Chris King's shorts, and Chris King thinks the world of him.
Oh, he's one of my favorite actors ever.
Yeah. So, and I think he was one of my favorite actors too on it too. I love what he did. I love the job all the actors did. It was so amazing that, you know, as a writer, you have a vision of it. And then when the actors get a hold of it, sometimes they do things that you hadn't imagined, and you kind of go, oh, wow, what a great take that is on it. You know, I'm so appreciative to their creativity and their input. And even when they improvised things, I don't think there was an improvisation that we didn't use. We used everything they improvised. They were just so talented and so into their characters that it just worked out so well. I was so impressed with the actors. The acting turned out very, very well. So, yeah. And, you know, what I was going to say was off of that, though, for people who are watching this, off of any job you have in the film industry, the most attractive thing is in the film industry is somebody who's already working. So if somebody's working, they're very attractive for the next job. Everybody wants them. So basically, off of Mama Boy, I was contacted by Howard Bird to help with his next production, which was Notorious Nick. And so I signed on board to help him as the UPM/line producer. And boy, I thought midway, why did I do this? I mean, another stressful job. You know, if you have your choice between writing or producing, write. Okay, because producing is a lot of problems, a lot of stress, a lot of problems, but you learn a lot and you meet a lot of people, and it's after it's all done, you know, and you can take a breath, and you look back at it and say, "Wow, that was a memory. That was a memory to make." So,
wow. So you finished Howard's movie.
Finished Howard's movie, and then off of that,
yeah, that's just now getting distribution, right? That's just out there.
Yeah, that's out streaming now. It had a theatrical release, and now it's on most platforms streaming. And here again, it's the connections you make. How did I get on Howard's movie? Well, because Howard has his director, Aaron Leong, and it was concerning as far as putting the pieces together, all the stunt work that was going to need to be done. And so Aaron basically, I think, asked Howard to contact me about being a UPM for it. So here again, Aaron Leong. So it's the connections you make. And then after that, we went on, and Aaron was the DP for a movie called Haymaker. And I think he probably, here again, this was a team you start to get together. And he suggested to the producers about bringing me on as a line producer. So I did the line producing on that too. And Sally Forcier, she was on that with us. She was the UPM for that. And Sally, you talk about all of a sudden being busy. I mean, Sally had done like 4 features in 5 years, something like that.
Right,
And now she's the local UPM on a feature film that's going to be starting here in Placerville on February 28th. So Sally's a busy girl.
Yeah.
And I'm involved in it in the sense that they wanted me to be more involved, but I'm going to be leaving town next week. So everything bottlenecks right up to the start of filming, and then you can't not be there, the last week and into the first few days of filming. So I'm going to help out where I can. I did some location scouting on that, and maybe some paperwork, for permits and stuff like that. But this is going to be a very interesting shoot in the sense that they're shooting it 16 millimeter film.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which is going to be very interesting because I was talking to the director, and he said that all the effects are done practical. And man, in reading this script, this is Terminator on steroids. I mean, you talk about blood and guts and crashes and fireballs, and I'm going, whoa, Placerville doesn't know what it's in for here. So it's going to be
that's pretty exciting. I love that. I love hearing that.
Yeah. So, but they love it. They love Placerville. They love the hospitality. They love the small town look. They loved Kathleen Dodge.
Oh,
how can you not?
Right?
How can you not love Kathleen Dodge?
Dodge is the film commissioner for El Dorado County and an incredible asset to filmmakers who shoot in her region.
Okay, now Kathleen Dodge is also one of the reasons that Mama Boy came into production, because one of my very first introductions to filming in the area was a Kathleen Dodge sponsored mixer that she holds every year.
Yep, Film.
I saw where it was happening, and I just went to go look, just check it out. And afterwards, I started talking, person here and there, and Kathleen Dodge met me, and she says, well, what do you do? Kind of like Laurie Peterson said. And I said, well, I do have a script. And she said, well, I read scripts. Why don't you send it to me? I said, yeah, sure. Anybody who wants to read your script, you're going to send it to her. So about 5-6 days later, I get a call from the film commissioner, Kathleen Dodge. And she must have spent an hour with me on the phone, just telling me, you have got to make this movie. You have just got to do this. And so she was the one who kept pushing me all the time too, to got to get this done, got to do this. And what an asset she is for El Dorado County, filming, because if you got a movie, you're filming it in El Dorado County, if it's anything to do with Kathleen Dodge. So she's great. She's great. But that's what I'm saying. Surround yourself with great people. And you can, and you don't have to, you look at me, and I've told you my story and how I transitioned. I'm an old guy. I didn't have any talents. I didn't, I don't even look good. So there's so many people out there who are younger and talented and got passions. And if I can do what I wanted, starting from basically zero or nothing or no experience, I know that the people out there who have passion and more talent and are younger and vibrant, they can do whatever they want. So,
yeah. I love sharing stories where we really can see where people have progressed in their career. In the independent film community in the Sacramento, Northern California, region, but primarily Sacramento, especially with the programs that we had at the Sacramento Film and Music Festival for filmmakers, the 10 by 10, which was a 10-minute, 10-day filmmaking competition, the Sac Music Scene, which was a music video competition. The coolest thing about that over the years, because I was with Nate and Tony on the festival for running it for about 6 years, and then the CFAA just became a sister of the festival. But the coolest thing was when we started those programs, we really didn't know who could do what. We just kind of put it out there. Hey, if anybody think, all these people are talking about filmmaking, nobody's like really just doing it. By putting these programs out, it kind of put the emphasis on get it done. Come on, you got a date. It became some of the most popular creative activities that this region has ever experienced. But the coolest thing that I got to see over a series of years is the talent and each one of the people that participated and what they did to start off and where they are now in their careers and what they're continuing to produce. It just makes me so proud. It makes me thrilled to see that, we have evidence of that growth. We can show you the first music video that Ryan Todd did. We can show you the kinds of things that he's producing now. There are so many that have been attached to that program. And that's really, the neatest thing about what we're doing here, because we're growing this industry and we grow it by people like you, people that are stepping up to do the job and make things happen. And honestly, I think you're right. I think opportunity is there for anyone if they just put themselves out there. I know so many filmmakers who, just like you, walked into a room and said, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. And then they found where they fit. And once you find where you fit, you realize, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like it all just kind of comes together.
And look how many times tonight that I'm thinking back, how many times I mentioned CFAA as far as being instrumental in my journey, as far as the table reads or the speed networking or the recommendations, or Jonathan Morgan as a speaker. All these things happened at CFAA and how instrumental they were to me, and like I said, later on, as I started getting more and more into filmmaking, I know you asked me if I'd like to be on the board of directors of CFAA. And I'm telling you, if anybody out there is asked by Laura Peterson to be on the board of directions, do it. Board of directors, do it. Because I use that as name dropping. I said, I'm on the board of CFAA, and that means something. It means something to me, and it means something to people who hear that too. So that was a blessing to be just on this board. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, we have a family. We have a board. Normally board members kind of, ebb in and out when you're talking, because we're a nonprofit organization for anybody who might want to contribute. But when we have board members that have come on from the beginning and stuck around to this day. And, honestly, we've evolved a lot, especially since the pandemic. Chris is mentioning in his messages we need to start meetings again, and we do, because there is something that's really important about that, making that human connection. It's like when you're casting, you don't cast by videotape. You might want to bring them into an audition, but very few people will cast just based on that.
Mhm.
It's the human connection. It's what the camera can see and deliver through their screen, and the connections that people make in that environment. And again, we've been around since 2004. We've had a long period of time to be able to watch people and see them work together and what they can produce. It's really just an incredible thing to know that somebody walked into a meeting with a need they didn't even know they'd find an answer to. And by just literally saying, hey, I'm writing a movie and I need somebody who can score it. I think that was one of the examples that I saw in person. And somebody else who showed up to a meeting the first time said, well, I'm a composer and let me talk to you about that. And next thing I know, the two of them, you and Paul Kramer, same example. Next thing I know, you're talking about it and then you're doing it. And the partnership is it's like magic. So when that happens, because there are moments like anybody, you're doing a job for a long time, you're putting a lot of effort into it, where sometimes you just go, oh, God, I don't feel like doing that today. And with the CFAA, I will tell you, there's a lot of moving parts, and there are many days when that, is the attitude. But then I'll talk to somebody. And with the meetings, it used to be that I would see it happen at the meetings where they find a connection through the organization or through the people in it. And next thing you know, it's off and running, and they're just an incredible team. So yeah, we definitely need to be able to get things back together again soon. I just don't know how long before that's going to happen or where. So that's always, something that's on deck, is something we got to figure out. But telling your story, and for any of you, I mentioned this early on, if you don't know the people in this industry locally, go to our website and watch some of the interviews that we've done with some of the other people in the industry, the local people that, first of all, should be your go-to people if you have questions about anything, whether it is, acting or directing or casting or stunts or whatever. We've covered the gamut. And it tickles me to be able to tell your story, because I just find it so entertaining anyway. And to know that because we've now archived this, we can share this forever. And, one of these days when we're, rocking in our chairs on the front porch, not doing anything anymore, we'll be able to go back and look at, wow, look at where they were then and look at where they are now, because we are building something here. We are all building something in this region. And once we kind of get past the pandemic and the restrictions that it has provided, you just watch us. You just watch.
Yeah.
It's going to be an incredible
and CFAA is at the heart of it. I mean, CFAA is the place to go to network, and we do need meetings again so we can network, like we used to. I mean, that was so important, to be meeting people that you want to do projects with or collaborate with, or all the different activities we had. Gee, I miss it. I miss that stuff.
Yep. Yeah, if anybody's watching and if they have an idea for a location that might fit what we're looking for, to go back into meetings at some point when we know that it's safe, obviously, please contact me. Any contact information on the website comes to me, as well as trickling down to other people. But whatever you need to do, reach out and let me know, because we're, who's got a big backyard? No. We're ready. We're ready for some more parties and gatherings.
Let's
and
do it. Let's do it.
I cannot thank you enough for
What?
spending your time and
It
sharing
was
your
fun.
story. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I
Yeah.
hope that we see 1 million more views on Mama Boy because of it. But if nothing else, you know, any of you who are aspiring writers, the Screenwriters Lab, yay! The Screenwriters Lab meets on the 4th Tuesday of every month. They do meetings by Zoom. And if you email, Steve, put this in the comments. If you email scripts at capitalfilmarts.org and let them know I'm interested in that particular group, they'll add you to their mailing list so that you get all the Zoom information when their meetings come up. So again, if you forget that, if you have any questions, call me. We'll get you hooked up with the right people, because that's what we want to make sure of, is that the right people get connected to the right people. I love you, man. And I love that you're a part of all of this. I wouldn't want to do it without, you. So you're stuck.
Thank you, Laura. You are CFAA. You are the heart of it. You're the founder, the president, and the heart.
Oh, that made me tear up. Okay, well, we're going to sign off now. Again, thank you guys for watching. We dragged this on for a long time, but I really wanted to make sure we're telling the story. And Rick is still cracking, he's still working there. He's up for jobs. He's up for hiring for jobs that he's on. You just let him know what you're looking for.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.